So the PC specs got announced, and then it turned out that they were fake. And now we got some new ones and people seem to be relieved, but I say no! This is still terrible. If you're playing Dying Light on console, don't worry, there are implications for you too. Today we talk about optimization in Dying Light. Welcome to Dying Talk, episode 10. So here's what the big fuss was about. Dying Light got its PC specs announced on Steam, and the minimum specs required 8GB of RAM, while the recommended specs required 16GB of RAM, and that's just crazy. To put it in perspective, both the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 have 8GB of RAM, of which only a portion is used for video games. That's right, only 5 or 6GB of RAM are actually dedicated to the games themselves. Now, usually this is not an issue. RAM is one of those things that's always good to have, but the heart that pumps all that video game juiciness is located on the graphics card, and usually that's where most of the strain is. PCs with only 4GB of RAM can still run most of the games on the market today. But I guess those are the past specs because it seems they were wrong, and here are the new ones. Both minimum and recommended specs require 40GB of hard drive space, nothing out of the ordinary, video games are getting big, deal with it, move on. They both only run on 64-bit operating systems, again, something that's becoming standard lately. Nothing out of the ordinary with the processor. RAM looks normal now with 4GB at minimum and 8GB at recommended. And then we get to the graphics cards. I don't know AMD cards that well, so I'm gonna use the Nvidia cards to go on a bit of a rant. GTX 780. Sure, eventually some game was gonna have to require a better graphics card, that's the natural evolution of video games, but this is getting out of hand. Now, don't mistake me for some kid who's crying because he doesn't have the computer to run this. Fortunately, my specs are above the recommended ones for this game, so I'm not scared that I won't be able to run it. I'm scared that the game itself won't be able to run properly on anyone's machine. When a game is very demanding, the developers have to rely on powerful graphics cards in order for the game to run properly. Maybe Dying Light is one of those games. Or maybe Techland just can't optimize their game. The last game that required the GTX 780 was released last month, and was called Assassin's Creed Unity. We all know how that turned out. The month before that, The Evil Within took a big leap when it recommended the GTX 670. And did the game look mind-blowing to anyone? No! Thanks to videobenchmark.net, we can see how well this card performs when compared to others. And look at this, it's number 5 on the chart. The Evil Within's card was number 17. These games are only 1 month apart. At this rate, even Nvidia won't be able to keep up. They're gonna be releasing games that require cards that haven't been made yet. On top of that, Techland doesn't have the best tracking record with PC ports. Going back to Dead Island, that game launched with horrible frame rate issues, crashes, and even the sound would only work on your left earphone for some reason. And I know what you're thinking, PlayStation or Xbox user. None of this matters, because regardless of what the requirements are, you'll always be able to play it on your console. Well, maybe. If the game isn't optimized, then we'll have another Assassin's Creed Unity case, where the game didn't run well on PC or the consoles. It was terrible on all platforms. And I really don't want to see that happening with Dying Light. One of the ways they're adjusting the game for it to run on the consoles, it's the frame rate. While it will run on 1080p 60 FPS on PC, on consoles the frame rate is going to be halved, so you'll only be able to play at 30 frames per second. This should reduce the strain on the system quite a bit, but I don't think you get to complain. The graphics card that's recommended for this game costs as much as your whole console, and that's just the graphics card. So this episode was a bit of a rant. I obviously hope the game will be well optimized, but this isn't a good sign. And also, Techland have never given you a reason to trust their PC ports, so be very cautious. Let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Does my opinion make sense? Do you have a different one? Share your thoughts. While you're down there, click the like button and subscribe for more Dying Light videos. The next episode is gonna be our last, and we're gonna talk about skills and talents. I've been Globku. Take care, everyone. See you next time.